what happened after that? Like, would you say that there was a huge breakthrough after that dark season in your business?
Hell yes, like 120%. And what's really sad, Vanessa, is a lot of people give up right before breakthrough. If they hung in there just a little bit longer, the breakthrough oftentimes happened.
Hi, Michelle. I am so excited to have you on the Turn Your Followers into Clients podcast as one of the very first student episodes that I personally recorded. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for having me. I feel so honored to be here.
Yeah, Michelle has been crushing it in our program and also has been just so transparent with her journey with all of our students inside the Bossgram Academy of how she was able to overcome so many struggles that I know a lot of the listeners here are going to heavily relate to. And so how about you actually take the reins on this, Michelle, and you introduce yourself and just give us a brief history of your journey.
Sure. So I wasn't always in the spiritual niche. Today, I'm an empathic astrologer and also a self-worthiness imposter syndrome coach. And I also do business on the side. So I help coaches understand their own worthiness through having integrity-aligned values through their own business coaching. So I do a little bit both mindset and business. My journey started with a corporate background. I worked in the fashion industry about 5-6 years ago, but it feels like a lifetime away. And I realized working in the fashion industry that I was still feeling very empty inside. It felt very much like Devil Wears Prada. I was working in New York City with my high heels, working 12, 15-hour days and feeling like there was a glass ceiling above my head. And I knew deep inside there was so much more to life, but I couldn't really see what that journey would look like, but I just had this feeling. And so what actually ended up happening was there was a shooting, a traumatic incident that happened, and that was a wake-up call. It happened at my workplace, and someone died, someone that I knew, and that was when there was a switch that went off in my head. I just kind of woke up, and it's as if I had an out-of-body experience. I looked at my life and I didn't recognize the life that I built. I was in a relationship that I was unhappy in. I had friends, I had a job, a career based off of other people's expectations, and it wasn't the life that I wanted. I did it based off of pleasing other people and playing really small. And so after that incident happened, I just packed my bags, sold everything I owned and in my relationship at the time, and just went to Bali for about a month. Took my first ever solo Eat, Pray, Love trip just to be alone with my thoughts and figure out what I wanted in my life. And it was one of the most terrifying experiences that I ever went through. To be alone with your thoughts for the first time and to really confront yourself is scary, but also one of the most liberating experiences one can go through if you can gift yourself that opportunity. So from that point, I knew I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. I just didn't know where to start. So I start where it made the most sense to me, which was focusing on tangible products that you can hold in your hand. So I did a private labeling company, e-commerce, in both the beauty realm and the pet realm, and that did fairly well, but I still felt kind of empty. I loved the business and marketing aspect of it, but I really wanted to embrace my spirituality and infuse it into my calling, into my purpose. And so I came across your ad actually for BGA, and this was the first time I came across your name, and I was like, ooh, this is very intriguing. And so I clicked on the ad, I watched the masterclass, and within 5 minutes, I was like, yep, I'm enrolling in BGA.
That is insane. When was this again? Like what month, what year?
It was in September of last year.
Oh my
September
goodness.
of last year. I did not go through my day drinking coffee, having the intention that I was going to like enroll in your course. I didn't even know that your course existed. It
That
just
is,
landed on my lap.
I gotta say that, like, when our community champion, so just so everyone knows, before each guest goes on the podcast, our community champion Joyce will do tech checks with everyone, get to know the guests a little bit better and everything. And when Joyce heard that, she went back to our team meeting and was like, our Facebook ads are working. And the best part is that it's attracting students like you who are literally like all-star students and have just gotten incredible results. And you didn't even have to, did you even know I had a YouTube channel? Like, because most times people will enroll in our programs because they've seen and consumed so much free content from me that they're like, you know what, I trust and I want to work with Vanessa. But for you, it was like you just took that, you literally took the leap of faith.
I took a complete leap of faith because your masterclass just really spoke to me in such an aligned way. There was something about it where my gut feeling felt really good about it. And I usually don't act on that impulse. I usually don't just say, here, like, take my money, someone on the internet that I've never seen before. And so your workshop was very powerful. And I just decided to go for it. And surprise, surprise, like, here we are. My life has completely changed since taking that course. So thank you, Vanessa, for creating it. Thank you so much. The community alone was really a game changer because this was the community where I was able to kind of really hone down my niche. I was still in the spiritual closet. Only my closest friends and family members knew that I had such a deep passion for spiritually infused coaching. And so I would coach people that were really close to me for free, but I didn't really know how to step on that platform, like reach that stepping stone of really stepping out of the closet and being like, hey, I'm a spiritual empathic coach and I will help you unearth your wounds and help you step into your worthiness and be more confident in life.
And that's so interesting. I actually kind of want to dial it back a little bit because we get a lot of people who, let's say, watched masterclass. They've never heard of coaching or they've never seen it in that way. And it's so interesting that you were at that time selling physical products, right? And so kind of what made you take that leap? Because you already had a physical product business. And so was it something in the masterclass or even just yourself? It was something that you've always wanted to do, and it was like permission slip, or you finally saw how it could click. Like, what was that like for you? Because I know a lot of people who are like, I don't know, like I already have a business or whatever else. I just want to dive deeper into this specific point that you made.
There is something about the way you carried yourself in the masterclass. You were just so freaking confident. You're so confident. And I felt like I could also relate to you. Like, you were sharing stories about yourself where it felt like we had a lot of things in common. You also left the corporate life and you had all of these different feelings come up and how you moved through them. And you just owned it. I was like, if Vanessa can own it, why can't I?
100%.
And so, but I also didn't have, the support just yet until I knew that if I enrolled in your course and I joined the community, I just had to see what was on the other side. I just had to know. And I think that leap of faith, being able to trust in something that you cannot see and having faith in it and just seeing what's on the other side and trusting that whatever is on the other side, if you can just move through that fear, what's on the other side is quite beautiful and transformational, albeit terrifying. It transforms you and it transforms the people around you because you really get to serve and make an impact in the world.
Right. And so you always kind of knew you always kind of knew that you wanted to do something with spirituality, and you were already in a way giving advice to your friends or helping out your friends and your closest, network out with this particular thing. And now fast forward like a few months later, this is your business. It's insane. It's so amazing. And that's kind of what I say to a lot of people too, is like, hey, like if you're giving free content out anyways on a topic that you're super passionate about, that you're super knowledgeable about, and that you genuinely want to help people with, why not make it your career? That's how, when you truly tap into your zone of genius and you create a business by design, like you create a business where it capitalizes on your strengths. I know for me, there's so many things in my business and I'm like, it doesn't even feel like work. Not because of some cheesy thing, but it's because like almost everything that I do in my business are things that are within my zone of genius. And if it's not in my zone of genius, the moment that I make the money, the moment I have XYZ, laid out, I outsource it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about your journey inside BGA and watching you go from, and we'll talk about this even more in this episode, going from being so afraid to even call yourself a coach, going from transitioning from a physical product to a service-based product, and also going from being afraid to charge and just all this identity shifting that you had to do throughout your 3 to 4 months inside BGA is just incredible. And I cannot wait to learn more about it. But before we do that, I would love to know, well, we talked about how did you find BGA and why did you sign up for BGA, but how exactly has enrolling in the program or just being in this business, like learning everything, impacted you personally and your business?
It gave me this deep knowing through all of the discovery calls that I've been on. So in the BGA community, I asked so many questions, starting down to the niche, saying, hey, I'm actually coming out of the spiritual closet. I came out of the spiritual closet first within the BJ community before coming out on Instagram and with my closest friends that always saw me as oh, she's that e-commerce business CEO. They did not associate me as that spiritual coach. They knew I was passionate about spirituality, but they didn't know that this was something that I actually wanted to be known for in my career and my calling. So I actually came out of the closet in the BJ community. Everyone was so freaking supportive. Everyone wanted to help. They wanted to get on calls with me to help me solidify my niche and offering. It's just such a generous and kind community that you've built. And I've never experienced anything like that before. And so when I was like, hey, I have this offer, it worked on me and it worked on my closest friends. I need to see if this can actually be a proven offer. Does anyone want to get on a call with me? And so it just blew up. I'm pretty sure Joyce she mentioned this. She was just like, girl, your thread blew up. There were just so many comments where people wanted to hop on calls with you. And I'm like, thank you. And thank you, Vanessa, for allowing me to do this. And through jumping on all of these discovery calls, I noticed a lot of patterns that they were going through. It wasn't even in the strategies that they were struggling and executing. It was their belief that they could do it, that they were worthy of doing it. And then I just had my aha moment. And a lot of them identified as being energetically and emotionally sensitive. They were introverted and they considered themselves to be very empathic, and they were passionate about spirituality, but a lot of them were also in the spiritual closet as well. And they needed permission to come out in having a business, but also be in integrity of their spiritual values and their spiritual beliefs. And that was where I was able to fully step into this, be confident, and marry my business experience and business acumen with my spiritual values and spiritual self-discipline.
So amazing. And just for the record, Michelle had 70 calls that she went on in the span of 3 months. She was able to get how many clients? 15 paid beta clients, which is unreal. And that's beta. Okay. And the fact that they were paid says something about something. And I'm just so proud of you that, number one, you put yourself out there. And that's kind of the actionable tip for our listeners is, a lot of people have excuses I don't know if it's going to work, so I'm not going to do it. And it's no. If you don't know if it's going to work, you pursue it. And then you see if it's going to work. You collect the feedback, which is exactly what we teach inside the Bossgram Academy and exactly what you embodied, which is I'm just so happy for you because it turned out that you were able to hop on 70 calls just by putting yourself out there. There's a lot of, we call them people who lurk. They're not ready yet to engage in the Facebook group, because I know that once you join the community, you see other students who are like you and putting themselves out there, literally signing clients left, right, front, and center. And then they feel oh, I'm not ready to post yet. I don't want to post until I have something tangible or whatever. But you just did it. You were like, hey, I'm stuck. I'm making a transition. I'm not sure about this. Who wants to hop on a call with me? And the thing I think that makes you really special, though, is maybe because you do have that business acumen to you, that you were able to also position yourself really well even though you weren't 100% sure on what the final result was going to be. You were still able to pitch the potential value that someone could get from hopping on that call with you. And it's just incredible to actually witness. And then
Thank you.
yeah, and how did that, after like having those 15 beta clients, like where are you at now in terms of your clients, your business, everything like that? And then once we cover that, let's talk about those limiting beliefs that, you know, you had to go through to get to the results that you have today.
Yeah, so where I am now is I actually closed my one-on-one coaching books officially as of 3 days ago. We're on a wait list right now, and I am about to finish my first ever group coaching in 2 weeks from now with 7 beautiful students. And there's already a wait list for the next round, the next group coaching cohort for this September. 3 slots have been filled up, and I haven't launched yet. And I know in your BJ curriculum, it said to do a masterclass first, and I'm currently creating that, but I didn't need a masterclass to fill these seats. It just happened. And I truly credit these 70 discovery calls, like the market research surveys, really getting down to nitty gritty, recording every single discovery call, transcribing it, seeing what words and language they're using, speaking my client's language, really getting down to the heart of the matter. That's where we're currently at. And so my nervous system is still trying to adjust to this new life that I have. It's beautiful and I'm adjusting, but time has just completely distorted. Like, I don't even know how I managed to jump on 70 discovery calls in a span of a little under as 3 months and do the things that I'm doing now. It's just, I think once you step into something that truly means so much to you, it doesn't feel like work. You live and breathe your purpose. You're so enraptured by something so much bigger than you, and it gives you so much joy that it just happens. There's no resistance. It just happens. It's beautiful.
I feel so nostalgic because those 70 calls that you did, like when I was starting my business, I did coffee chats for free for anyone who needed it, for me to find out like what was I good at, like what did I like to do, and it was hosted every Thursday for like I think 5 months of every Thursday, you know, booked out calls for free for people. And it was like not really niche either for me. It was just kind of like, at least you kind of knew it was a spirituality thing. I wasn't sure, but because I was just so in my element, I'm more passionate about figuring the, like my determination to figure out what works for me and my determination to help people. Cause that's key. You know what I mean? Like it's really obvious when people are just doing it for the wrong reasons versus people who are doing it to serve and to help and to provide value. Because at the end of the day, if your mission is so clear to you, yes, 70 discovery calls or 100 calls or 500 calls, like what I did, can seem like a lot and can seem like a quote unquote waste of time for some people. And they'll be like, I don't want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work if you're trying to do something or be someone that you're not, and you don't have a clear mission or a clear why as to why you're doing those calls. If you have no why, then obviously you're going to be like, this is a lot of work, yada, yada, yada. But if you're like what Michelle did and like what I did when I started my business, and you just are so focused and so determined and you're more mission led and value led, you're going to do those calls and you're going to be really happy with the result of them. And so I want to go back to what you kind of mentioned about identity. Okay. So Michelle, something to know about Michelle is that, and the reason why she was invited to this podcast, we've worked with over 4,000 students already, right? And what made Michelle stand out to our entire team is that she is so good with being so transparent with where she's at in her journey and what she's learned. And she has been continuously giving back to the other students in the Boss Graham Academy program. So for example, Michelle, she had a huge, amazing milestone, signing paid clients left, right, front, and center, not just beta, but full clients, as you would have heard from what she said. She's booked out. She's had all the success. Yet she went back to the Boss Graham Academy, posted a really long, incredible post talking about how she got there, talking about the fact that, hey, I have these amazing successes now, but I want to share with you guys that it was not an easy journey to get there. And here are all the limiting beliefs, all the struggles that I went through and how I got through them. And I basically told Joyce, our community champion who helps put together these episodes with me, I was like, Joyce, we need this entire post in a podcast episode because it was fire. And so let's talk about the struggles that you went through in order to break through and get to where you're at now. So do you want to kind of kick off with like the first one?
Yeah, sure thing. So the first thing that really happened that was a struggle that I felt was unexpected, kind of hit me like it was a blind spot, was my nervous system freaking out. I ended up, after I would get on these coaching calls, the imposter syndrome would kind of come up and I would feel very overwhelmed. And there were days where I just wanted to like be under the covers in my bed and just cry it out and like just journal in my diary and hide from the world, because I was focused a lot on operating from my subconscious old beliefs. And there was this old part of me that believed so many things, but I think one of them was that like you cannot have a business doing spiritual coaching. Like that was one of them. And then the other one is like, who are you to coach other people? You know, you've sold physical products your entire life. And it actually did bring up some old wounds, like from childhood. I really I struggled at a young age with a stuttering problem. I had a speech impediment. And
What?
I worked really hard to master my ability to communicate with people. And so stepping into this new thing that I've never done before, which is coaching at such a high level and with a lot of people and really uncovering other people's problems, it had me looking at my old wounds. Like I really had to confront how far I've come. And it was very cathartic, very cathartic. And my nervous system needed time to regulate. So I allowed myself, I booked time to cry it out after my discovery calls because I knew it was part of the process. It wasn't that I was failing, it was that my nervous system was regulating. And I needed time as a business owner to allow for that to happen so I can really transition into this new paradigm, into this new identity shift. I knew I was identity shifting and I was giving myself that compassion to allow it to happen.
Yeah, I love that about your post because you really mentioned that. I literally have a quote right here that you wrote. I'm going to quote you, okay? Because it was
Sure.
so powerful. You wrote, when you're growing so fast, there will be days your shadow self comes out to test you. Because I was having all these milestones, my ego and my old identity couldn't fully process it. So I had days where I didn't want to do anything. I had to just lie in bed and cry it out. This happened especially in the first month when my body and mind needed time to integrate into this new paradigm shift I was experiencing. I thought that that was so powerful. And I never, like, I knew that when you shift identities, and this is something that I've said in previous episodes, I've said in my free content, in my paid content over and over again, every level of business is going to require a different version of you. The Vanessa that I am today is not the same as the Vanessa who started the business. And in order to grow your business, you need to grow as well. You are always changing identities in your business. And that's why I love entrepreneurship. And every time someone asks me, what's it like being an entrepreneur? I'm like, it's honestly a personal development journey. If you dig personal development and you are committed to growing yourself, starting a business is going to do that for you. And that's essentially what you went through. And one thing that I really loved about what you said is specifically, you said, quote, when you're growing so fast, there will be days your shadow self comes out to test you. Can you elaborate more on what shadow self looks like, what that is, and how to kind of overcome that as well? Because I've had days where Vanessa from 2018, 2019 comes up to Vanessa 2021 and it's like, this is this is a one-hit wonder thing for you. It's going to blow up one day. This is too good to be true. That's what I go through. So I would actually love your advice on how to get over that. But first of all, describing what shadow self is.
So shadow self, I believe, is this integrative part of us. Every single human being on this planet has a shadow self, and it is what makes us nuanced and complex and also beautiful beings. And the shadow self are those aspects of us from childhood where we might have learned certain programmings from our parents. So they're inherited wounds from our parents' shadow self, where we take on these traits, and this is what creates our subjective reality. We're biased towards certain opinions. We might have polarizing thoughts. This is where our inner critic is developed. And we also become judgmental of not only ourselves, but of other people. And what's underneath that judgment is a wound. It's a belief that we haven't fully looked at and resolved and made peace with. So every single time our shadow self comes out, it is a form of self-rejection that's being projected in us rejecting what's outside of us. And one of the ways in which I worked with this is I created psychological distance from my own inner critic. So we all have that inner critic within us. It's that voice telling us, what makes you think that you can do this? It's that thing that, creeps up and gives us a lot of self-doubt and makes us kind of step back and end up not doing the thing. And then many years later, we end up regretting wishing that we did the thing. So one of the techniques that I do, that I tell a lot of other people to do, is naming that inner critic to create psychological distance. So I name mine's Bertha. Like whenever Bertha comes out, and Bertha is such a weird name, but that is what allows me to create that distance from that character. Let's say I'm about to write a sales page or get on a sales call with a prospect, and Bertha comes out, and Bertha's like, what makes you think that you can do? Like, this person is way more successful than you. Like, look at that coach. Like, she's landing all of these clients. Like, what makes you think you can land this client? And I would reparent myself and tell myself, I'm like, Bertha, right now, you are not in the driver's seat. I am. And of course, this takes a lot of daily practice. It's like exercising a muscle. So I would journal out the beliefs that I'm working through. And next to each belief, I would write down what distortions is leading me to believe this belief. What are the possible cognitive distortions that's taking place for me to have this belief? And this belief, they're actually not my belief. It's not me and my identity. It's Bertha taking shape based off of the wounds that I learned from childhood. So having that distance really helps and keeps me grounded. And because we have our shadow selves, we can also reparent ourselves. Our parents did our best. They did what they think was love, and it's not their fault. It's up to us to have compassion for our parents for doing their best, especially if our parents are immigrants. And then for us to step into the role of the mom and dad that we needed to help us move forward in life and operate at that next level that our parents didn't have the ability to do.
Hey boss, are you enjoying what you're hearing so far? Well, I'm interrupting my own episode to invite you to my free training over at www.followerstoclients.com. This training has helped thousands of my own students nail down their niche, create content that brings them more leads to their door, and implement an easy-to-deploy social media funnel that helps them close clients like a boss. This training is perfect for anyone who is starting out in business and wants to know the roadmap to making 10K months, regardless if you're a new coach, content creator, or corporate escapee. By the end of this training, you are guaranteed to walk away with strategies that you can implement instantly. The best part is that this training is absolutely free and breaks down my entire methodology to signing paid clients, plus complimentary trainings that I don't share anywhere else on my free channels. Register today at www.followerstoclients.com. Link is in the description box below. I can't wait to see you there. And now let's get back into the episode. Oh my gosh, so powerful. I love that. And especially that limiting belief exercise. That's kind of what I like to call the power of objectivity. We do a very similar exercise inside the Bossgram Academy. Obviously, you know this. And what we get our students to do is, especially in the first module, because that's where all of our students are like, excited but scared. That's usually the first phase of the program, is where people get very uncomfortable. It's usually like the first phase and the last phase of the program. The first phase, when you're getting started and you're like, oh, I actually have to work, and oh my God, I'm learning all these strategies. Oh my gosh, I have so much more farther to go. Who am I to do this? Like, there's just that huge learning curve that you have to get through. And then the end of the program where you actually have to launch the damn thing, it's like, oh my gosh, now everything that I've worked so hard for actually has to be released to people outside of this community or in a bigger level. And that's where we see like all of our students really having that shadow self come out, and it's crazy. And so with that limiting belief exercise that we put in the beginning, it's very similar to exactly what Michelle is saying. So I'm backing up her strategies, I'm backing up what she's teaching her own clients too. And that is, we get our students to write down, what is your limiting belief, and right under it, write down why it isn't true. And that really forces you to get into that power of objectivity and understanding like, hey, if my friend said this, like I didn't say this, this is just what's on the paper right now. I wrote down my limiting belief. Now I have to be that mom or dad or be that whoever I need to be to look at that really objectively and ask myself, is that true? Like, do I really think that I can't be the only, like I can't compete with all these other coaches? Or do I really think that the market is too saturated? Or do I really think that I'm not good enough? Are there examples in my life where I have been good enough? There's so many things that you can do with that exercise. And so I'm so glad that you brought it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many sneaky ways in which we sabotage ourselves, and it shows up in different ways. So,
yeah. I noticed for me, it shows up a lot when I'm playing a bigger game. It shows up a lot when I'm setting goals. So I actually filmed an episode yesterday that's probably going to be released by the time this episode is out. I don't know. I still have to figure out my podcast schedule. But I basically admitted to my audience in that episode that, hey, I noticed that in Q1, Q2, I am not at my best self. Usually it's around Q1. That's like, think of November, December, January, February. Those are like my low months where I notice. And now that you mentioned the word shadow self, my shadow self comes out like crazy because I'm planning for the year. To me, every new year is like a reset button. And for most people, it's like opportunity. And for me, it's the same. But then I'll start putting all these major goals. And then I start getting hella scared. I get so terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? Oh my gosh, things are moving so slow right now. I have this big goal that I want to hit. And then I start comparing myself to other people in the industry, being like, oh my gosh, like she's moving so much faster. And I'm like, Vanessa, calm down. It's January. It's January. It's February. Good things take time. And so I'm so glad that you brought the whole shadow self thing out, because even if you're starting out your business and the shadows are coming out to get you, just know that they'll always come up. Even if you have a 6-figure business, a 7-figure business, a 8-figure business, anytime you're leveling up, anytime that you want to achieve XYZ goal, something that you've never done before, you are very likely going to have that identity shift that you need to do. And it's uncomfortable. And I think Michelle can attest to this, that a lot of times people confuse growth with I need to give up because things are getting hard and I'm getting scared and I have so much anxiety, yada, yada, yada. But I've pinpointed that every time I've felt the lowest in my business, after that, it's always a breakthrough, whether that's in revenue, whether that's in how I see myself, whether that is just my team, anything like that. And so would you say that when you were in your shadow self and you were like breaking down, you're going through these calls and you're like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Like, what happened after that? Like, would you say that there was a huge breakthrough after that dark season in your business?
Hell yes, like 120%. I so resonate with what you just said. And what's really sad, Vanessa, is a lot of people give up right before a breakthrough. They quit right before a breakthrough happens. If they hung in there just a little bit longer, the breakthrough oftentimes happened. It's fortunate that both my parents, they're both entrepreneurs. I do come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I think I really have to thank them, because there were so many times where they could have tossed in the towel. Like, they were near bankruptcy, but they held in there and they had so much faith in their business and they were just not willing to give up. And now they're really comfortable and they're really happy. And they were able to scale their business where they never have to worry about money again. And so seeing that and being in that kind of mindset How do you develop your grit? How do you develop your resilience? And how do you come up with creative solutions to stay in the game so you don't quit? Oftentimes we're at our most creative and innovative right before we toss in the towel if we just kind of switch our mindset. You can give up or you can do something that's so crazy, because what have you got to lose? If you really think you're that close to failure, have fun doing it anyway. Like really throw a Hail Mary, because when you throw a Hail Mary, you get so creative, people can't help but look at you. And they're asking themselves, what the heck is Michelle doing? It's so crazy that it might just work. And I really think that's what worked for me, because when I came out as a spiritual coach, I was like, this is insane. Like that dialogue came up so many times. And my imposter syndrome came up so many times. But I knew that there was a part of that imposter syndrome that was that little child from a very young age that was always suppressed, that was always shamed. Like, Michelle, don't talk. Like, your ideas, your creative ideas, not important. We need to focus on what's in front of us, and we need to focus on what's tried and true. And yes, that is important, but we also need to instill faith into our business, into the end goal, because I think that that's what truly sets us apart from the rest. Everyone wants like a shortcut. They want short-term gratification to get to that business. They're like, I can do a business in like 30 days and 60 days. And they see other coaches doing it. But once the going gets tough, like they just want to give up. And that is what separates successful coaches and successful business owners from those that give up. They've given up. You're not supposed to give up. Business is not designed to be easy. And that's a gift.
One mic drop, like, everything you've said. So one thing that I caught on is the word faith. And I think that is a huge testament to why there's strategy in business, but there's also mindset, spirituality, doing all those things, having faith, whatever that faith looks like. You know, you don't need to believe, like you just believe in something, believe in yourself, believe in a higher power, whatever it is. Because if you are someone who's just white knuckling strategies and you're making a strategy of whether it pass fails to determine whether or not you're going to move forward, yeah, you're not going to move forward. There's always going to be something with a strategy that breaks, something with a strategy that needs to be tweaked, something that a strategy needs to be A, B, C, D, properly implemented, whatever it is. There's going to be so many variants as to why a strategy doesn't work. And my biggest pet peeve is when I see someone go in, they try out a strategy and they're like, it didn't work. It must mean that I'm not good. It must mean that I suck. Or it must mean that whoever I learned the strategy from sucks, or whatever else. That it's more so blaming everything else and then using that as a conclusion on their self-worth, and then using that as a conclusion to just shut down their business or pivot. Like, I think there's a good thing to pivot if it comes from a good place. Yeah. But I've noticed there's so many people who pivot because this doesn't work, so I'm going to pivot. This doesn't work, so I'm going to pivot. But it's not necessarily like asking them the critical questions of like, do I like doing this? Am I willing to put in more work to make this happen? Like, for instance, Michelle, if you didn't have those 70 discovery calls, would you have still pushed through with the spiritual niche?
Hell yes. I would have found a different way. And there's so many different ways to get to the destination that I am in now. Mm-hmm. It's like, I feel like so many people self-sabotage because they think in such black and white terms. Yep. They think in such polarizing terms that it really is underserving them. And when we catastrophize, like, it's all or nothing. My growth and my journey has to look in this exact same way, or else I won't be able to get the thing. The universe, whatever spiritual beliefs you have, whatever you choose to believe in, your higher faith and power to get you through the dark times, hold on to it. Like, let that be your foundation, because strategies can only take you so far if you don't have that foundation of belief and faith that you're worthy of the thing. That is what's going to carry you through the end.
100%. The strategies, yeah, it can work, it cannot work, but you cannot use it as a pass fail on whether or not you're going to keep going on in your business, right? And it's when you have that faith. And so that's kind of why. And another thing that you said is like, if it was, you basically said if it was easy, anyone would be doing it. Like, starting a business does designed to be easy. When you sign up, whether that's for the Boss Gram Academy, another program, or signing up to declare to yourself that you are going to be a business owner, you want to create generational wealth, you want to work with all these clients, you want to do all of that, that comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of responsibility to build a platform, trying to grow an audience, trying to lead an audience of people, trying to get people to join you, to pay you because they believe in you so much, just like how I'm so grateful you've believed in me after watching my masterclass alone. Like, oh my gosh, think of how I feel. That's a huge responsibility for me. Now, obviously, I'm not responsible for all the success and all the failures and everything. You are responsible for your own success, but there's more accountability when you play a bigger game. And when you have that type of accountability, that responsibility, if you want to have the big audience, if you want to make the big money, if you want to have whatever ABCD, that equals the amount of value that you need to input into society. The people who input the most value in society are the ones who get paid big. Think of like, I don't know, Jeff Bezos, richest guy on the planet. He solved a really big problem. Everyone uses his products because it solves a huge problem. The bigger problem that you want to solve, the more challenging it's gonna be. Like, I don't understand why people don't know that. Like, they go into it just so blind, and when one thing doesn't work out, they're like, yeah, not worth it, I'm done. And I'm like, well, but what, I thought this was your dream. I thought you wanted to build this thing. What's happening? Why are you throwing the towel so soon? So I really resonate and love everything you said, especially with your perspective of like spirituality and putting those terms together. Like, I never thought of so many of the things that you mentioned.
Thank you so much. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions that oftentimes a lot of new coaches, they fall trap to is that they make it about themselves. This business is actually not about you. It's about what problem you're going to solve. If you can be honest for a moment and really ask yourself the question, am I building a business because I truly care about solving a problem? Or is it for the fame? Is it for the recognition? And solving the problem is just the backdrop. If that's just a backdrop, it's not going to last for very long. Your desire to solve a problem must exceed everything else. Because if there's anything else kind of taking hold and prioritizing, which is placing our identity, we thinking that we are the hero in the hero's journey. The hero's journey that we're building in a business, our client is a hero. We're guiding them through the journey. And so we have to make that distinction in order to succeed long term.
Love it. Little like snaps here for you. Like, another thing too that I love what you said is just the fact that it's not about you. It's really about the people that you serve. And one thing that I want to mention is that when you do make it about yourself, when you do it for the fame and fortune, those are great. Like, if you want to have that, that is awesome, right? Like, we all build businesses. That's why they're not nonprofits. That's why they're not charities, right? We all want to make good money as well, right? That's something that we should not ignore. But
absolutely,
if you are only doing it so that you look good and you're not providing value, you're not solving a problem, then at some point you are going to plateau. Because when you solve a problem, the problem will always change. The problem might get more complex, whatever else. When you are more of a problem solver in your business, you are going to be more inclined to update your programs. You're going to be more inclined to create more content that's actually going to solve the new problems that come up for your followers, for your clients, for whoever else. You are going to be an innovator because you are so mission driven. But if you're just doing it to make money and you don't care about people, you don't care about the problem side of things, even if you make a lot of money, let's say you hop on a trend, it blows up, you have a video that goes viral, you add a course to it, whatever. If you don't update that course, if you don't update the things that you're teaching, the value that you're giving, you eventually are just going to be a flash in the pan and you're just going to plateau in your business. And then you're going to see a huge drop off if you're not solving problems constantly.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
I love it all. And so I love how the direction of our episode just really zoned in on that shadow self and all the different limiting beliefs that came from it. I know one of the beliefs that you also had was about increasing your prices.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just touch
Absolutely.
really quickly on that? Because I know that a lot of people, that's like, even for me, like when I was starting out, that was one of my biggest fears. Like Boss Gram Academy, I was going to sell it for like $97
Mhm.
when I first started because I didn't see my value. Can you talk more about
Yeah.
that?
I think it's a natural human condition, and it's sad that it works this way, but it also works to serve us. But it's part of the human condition to undervalue something that is free versus something that someone has to pay for. There's a mutual exchange that happens energetically when you know that you're good for it and that you are putting faith into your transformation by investing in yourself. People don't invest in programs. They invest in containers in which they can trust to be guided through their transformation, whatever the outcome is. And so for me, I really shifted my mindset of you can't charge for spiritual services to you're transforming people's lives. Like you can't even put a price point on that. When you transform people's mindset, creating a business is so much more impactful and powerful. There's less resistance along the way. It should be the precursor, the foundation before any marketing strategy comes into play. And that was what allowed me to go from free to like $30 to $60 to $97 to $168 for just a one-on-one, one-time 90-minute call to
Whoa,
now
so you're
doing
charging for those 90-minute calls. You go, girl. Oh
yeah,
my
I
gosh.
charge money just for people to get
Oh
on a 90-minute call. And like my calendar is full.
You
So
charge
I
for
am now
their
putting
time.
people,
You charge for the value
yes,
that you're going to get from the time that that person is on a call with you. And they best believe because they're paying for that, they're going to implement. It does
yes,
them a service.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so going from that to free to being able to trust that the people that I'm going to attract, they are ready to shift. They are ready to identity shift. And when you want something so bad, you will put the money as a form of energetic currency to know that you are good for it. You are putting faith into your transformation and trusting that whoever is in the container with you as your coach will help guide you through this process. So it is important to choose a right coach as well and making sure that you guys have similar values and that there's alignment here. And so, yeah, that's been a huge shift and that's been a game changer. And I think money is also a mirror to how worthy we believe that we can achieve the thing.
Ooh, I love that. I also
Yeah.
want to give like a little, I guess, not strategy moment, but one thing I say a lot to people, because we have a bunch of students in the Boss Gram Academy, spirituality, marriage coaching, art coaching, like so many different coaches beyond just, I teach you how to make money. I'm a business coach, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Or I help you increase your followers. I'm a social media coach, blah. Like there's so many different niches, right? And oftentimes I see those type of students kind of have a period where their shadow self comes out and they're like, I think I might need to pivot and become a business coach because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding any success right now. And they automatically assume it's because they're not teaching people how to make money. And what I
Mm-hmm.
always say is like, it's a positioning problem, not a pricing problem, not a niche problem. It's how you're communicating the value. And this is kind of how I break it down. So, for instance, I once had a marriage coach or like a relationship coach literally say to me, I think I want to be a business coach. And I was like, oh, great. Like, do you have a passion for business? Like, where is this coming from? Because this is the first
Mm-hmm.
time I've ever heard you say that you wanted anything related to business. And her reason was, well, I'm not making money in my current niche. And so I want to be a business coach so that I can teach people how to make money and then I can make money. I was like, that's not how it works, sweetie. Like,
Yeah.
let me explain to you, like, let me actually help you reposition. Let's focus on repositioning your current offer instead of you leading basically not by integrity, by doing the whole business coaching, not for the right reasons, not necessarily because you have credentials for it, not because
Yeah.
of ABC passion that you have for it, but more so because of a monetary gain thing or because of a fear thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this is how I broke it down to her. I said, hey, when you relationship coach someone, let's say you fix someone's marriage, right? How are they going to show up to work differently? how are they going to show
Mm-hmm.
up in their life differently? You know, if someone is infinitely happier because their relationships are stronger, imagine how that person shows up to work. Imagine how that person puts in the work. And when they put in the work, when they show up at their 100% at work, what do you think would happen? They might get a raise. They might get a promotion. They might have better quality of life. And that links back to them getting more money at the end of the day. But you need to communicate that with your audience. You need to be able to position that. The same thing with what you're doing, Michelle, like the amazing programs that you have to help people release their imposter syndrome. An amateur coach who doesn't understand yet how positioning works and how communicating value works might say, it's just helping people with their mindset. I can't charge that much for it because business coaches are actually teaching people how to make money. But it's like, Michelle, like when you help someone identify their shadow self, name it Bertha, like have all these exercises to help them identify it whenever it creeps up. Imagine how much more money they would be able to make because those roadblocks are gone. Imagine because of your services, Michelle, that you're able to actually get someone to a place where they're not going to give up on their business. Because if they gave up on their business, they're losing out on, I don't even know how much money, impact, or whatever they could be making. And so that's kind of one thing that I always say to people who are always like, well, my niche doesn't help people make money. So what do I do? Right. So for you, like, I know that you've been very successful with getting people in on your programs, especially in the spirituality niche and helping people with their imposter syndrome and all of that. Do you have any other advice too on those people who are kind of like the previous person that I mentioned that feel like they need to change their entire niche because they're kind of can't see how tangible or what tangible results they can get people with spiritual mindset, life coaching, whatever type of coaching that isn't business related or isn't directly related to make money fast or grow your Instagram followers fast?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally resonate with everything that you just said. So I have a couple of one-on-one clients where it's not business focused at all. I have one specific client where she was able to work through being estranged from her father of 8 years. The reason why we're in this coaching container is so that she could talk to her dad, just simply talking to her dad because it's so painful for her. And I have another situation where there is this client, her family, they believe in a certain set of religious beliefs, and she doesn't believe the same thing. And she wants me to help her. She's like, how do I set intuitive boundaries? How do I set boundaries and communicate in a forthright way without burning the bridges with my parents? How do I effectively communicate? She's not asking for the outcome to have a business. She just wants to heal her communication and her relationship with her family. And I have another client that focuses on weight and feeling very masculine. She doesn't feel like a woman and she just wants to feel feminine. And so oftentimes these calls, they're very cathartic. They're deeply emotionally intimate. And when you allow yourself to create enough vulnerability in your marketing, in your promotion, and getting really specific on scenarios, what are the side effects when we work on your self-worthiness? When you believe that you are worthy of healing these wounds and you no longer self-sabotage, that this is not your dominant story, that you have a choice you can make. If you can kind of let down the ego and be humble enough and just really see the full picture and unlearn some of the things that you've learned in childhood, it is so powerful. And having your revenue skyrocket, having your business do well, it's just a side effect of healing what is foundational, what is personal to you, and what means a lot to you. So absolutely.
That is so amazing. It's kind of like that hockey stick where like the moment you remove the blocks and the moment you work with people like Michelle or anyone who's like not just a business coach, let's say, like you're going to be able to see so many amazing results because of that. And so whether you are on the receiving side, maybe you're a client, you're like, I don't want a spiritual coach, or I don't want a mindset coach, or I don't need that. I just need a business coach. I just need all of that. Or I need the best strategies. Then you go on YouTube and look for all the hacks. That's only a very small part of the equation. If you don't have someone, or if you don't personally remove those things that are causing your shadow self to come out, those limiting beliefs to creep up, especially on the times that it's very important that you monitor it and that you're able to identify it, because like Michelle said earlier on in this episode, usually that's right before a breakthrough. That's right before insane periods of growth. If you don't know how to handle that, well then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's going to be hard for you to move forward. Or if you're on the other side and you're on the giving side and you are someone who's listening to this and you're not a business coach, you're not a social media coach, you're not someone who actually can pull up the analytics and be like, this is what everything is doing, whatever. Just know, like, I love the fact that, Michelle, the way that you explain the examples of some clients that you work with, for me, like, that is invaluable. I don't know anyone who's listening to this call, if they were in the same shoes as their clients, wouldn't pay for that type of service.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's unreal.
It sets them free. It sets them free. It gives them a peace of mind. So many people are suffering on such a deep emotional level that has nothing to do with business, has nothing to do with money. And they just need someone that they can trust to guide them through this process to reach a state of peace. That's all they want. Yeah. That's all they want.
And I love the word that you said, freeing them. And it's like, imagine when you are free, you're free to do other things now. You're free to pursue more opportunities. You're free to receive. Like, if someone has a fear of like anxiety and like afraid to talk to people, let's imagine if you work with someone who's able to help you overcome that. Imagine who else you can connect with, who you can talk to, the relationships that you could have, the business opportunities that you could have, A, B, C, D, whatever values to you that you could have. And it's not a business strategy. So I am obsessed with this episode. We're recording this episode before the podcast is even launched. And I'm like, I just want to launch the podcast right now and like just share this episode to everyone. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for Michelle. Before we wrap up, is there any last words of wisdom that you want to give to our listeners? Anything that you want to say?
Sure. So 2 things. First, you fail your way to the top. I want to invite you to fail as many times as you could possibly muster, because the more you fail, the more you'll reach to the top. Failure and success, they don't deviate into 2 separate paths. They're the same path. So you just have to recognize that. And then the second tip is allow your nervous system time to regulate itself. If you are doing something that you've never done before, you need to be compassionate and allow your body to regulate. It's normal to freak out. It is so normal and is absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Michelle. And also, where can people find you if they want to connect more with your story, more with your journey, or even become a client of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a website. You can find me at michellesaya.com. And I also am active on Instagram. It is at Michelle_Saya.
And Saya is Saya, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. You just finished listening to an episode on the Turn Your Followers into Clients podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes, and don't forget to share this episode with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag me at vanessalau.co on Instagram. Now, if you want more of that good stuff, head over to www.vanessalau.co, click on our blog, and access all of the show notes from this podcast. Now, boss, keep doing the damn thing and building a business you don't need an escape from.